Hello and welcome to this tutorial video on the Trendlines Pro indicator by LonesomeTheBlue that's available within Tradingview. Let's start by installing the indicator and we come down, Trendlines Pro, give it a click and it should appear up here in the list of indicators. There it is. We have uptrends here in green, downtrends in red. There can be more than one or two of each or none of each. It depends what the market's doing. You'll notice that I use trend channels, upper line, midline and lower line. Oh, that's just vanished. All are relevant. It's just come back again as well. That's the beauty of this system, of this indicator. You don't have to draw the lines. You know they're accurate and they draw themselves as it all moves along. You may well have seen a blue dotted line back just then, which would show when a trend line has been broken, and it would have run there to show the previous broken trend line. Very useful feature. Within this table here, we have a list of the parameters for each trend line. So downtrend is going to be invalidated if the price hits 1700. That's when this channel will disappear. Well, at 1700.11. It's a strong downtrend at 4.23 as opposed to a weak 2.95 up on the green. The angle is 11% and the distance is 0.33% to the edge of the trend line from the leading price line. Similarly with uptrend, 169.381 would break the trend. Again, 2.95 weak. It's at a 7-degree angle and the price is 0 degrees right there from the edge of the trend line, and the trend line's just disappeared, and there is the previous broken line to show us that it was there. Down here in the bottom left, I will bring the stats up for this like that and just quickly run down and make that table there a little larger as soon as I can find the right setting for it. Market structure, so we'll make it large and we will put it in the middle of the screen on the left. It will appear here. That'll be easier for us to have a quick look at. Okay, this shows the market structure, basically how the trend has been on the last 50, 100, 150 and 200 bars. 1 bar is 1 unit of time, so this is 50 minutes, 100 minutes, 150 minutes and 200 minutes. If we were dealing with a different time frame, it would be 50, for example, times 1 day. It would be 50 days, 100 days, 150 days, 200 days. Bars is nothing more than time frame. Okay, so what happens is on the last 50 bars, we get the readout for how the overall trend has been. And it's been at 0 degrees, sideways. There's been no change in terms of the last 100 bars, 10-degree uptrend, and it's reducing. That's what these arrows here mean. In fact, the one at the top there has changed. That means the trend is increasing. And at the bottom here, we've got 3 lines, which means no change as we had before. 10-degree downtrend. Okay, let's go back to settings and run through what's available in the options. First of all, you've got time zone. I set mine to 0 because I'm in London and it's GMT. You would set this to whatever your time zone is, basically GMT +1, etc., etc., or UTC as it says there. Pivot period 4. This will tell the software exactly where the up and down points are and how it can interpret those to draw your trend lines. I'd suggest leaving that at 4, but you can have a fiddle with it if you want. All of the options here have been set to perfection by LonesomeTheBlue. They're here for you to change once you get to know what you're doing, once you get to know how the indicator works. But on your first few weeks or so, I would leave everything as it is. So that's a 4. Source, high, low or close. And essentially that tells the indicators again where to get its data from, the high or low point or the closing point per bar. Threshold rate at 4. Again, it's something that you don't want to be setting, but this will change the size of those trend line channels appropriately. Minimum strength 3, which will give you the minimum strength of the trend to display on screen. Again, right click or hovering over that eye there will give you the information. Show trend lines as I said before, I use trend channels with a midline, but we can just have trend channels with no midline. We can have just a channel, which will be much smaller, or we can just have lines, which is much, much simpler, perhaps more suited to a mobile screen where you haven't got as much real estate, something like that. For me, on a large monitor, I prefer the triple line trend because that gives me all that information and also allows me to encompass both the lower and upper side of the trend. Okay, keep moving down. On extras, enable weak trend lines. That's pretty self-explanatory. If you want to see the weak ones, enable it. Shaded channels, you can shade or not shade the channels. Colors are here, and you can also change the opacity again to make your screen a bit more readable no matter what monitor or device you're viewing on. Okay, let's move this over. Show angle info and show distance in percentage to trend lines. Well, that actually relates to something we've got just coming up after all of our alerts. That's this one. I'm going to change the size to large. We'll see some information pop up just above and below the price. There we go. And if we go back to settings by clicking on that element of it, we can get back to where we were. So, show angle info. And if I unclick that, you'll see that the angle information will disappear from those figures above and below. What you've got now, if we just remove also the distance to trend lines, is just the figures that relate to where the downtrend or the uptrend will break. Useful, possibly. And in fact, I'm going to leave it on screen and see how I get along with it. But what I am going to do is come back down again, and I'm going to take that down and make it quite faint so it doesn't interfere with the information I'm looking at. And that just gives you an idea of the configurability of this indicator. It's phenomenal. You can absolutely change everything just as you can with Harmonic Patterns Pro and Trendlines Pro for indicators. Let's keep moving down. We've got to go back up because we clicked both of those. Show last broken trend line. Well, that's that blue line there that I was talking about. Untick and it will disappear. Tick it again, it'll come back. How many bars to check? Well, that will essentially read the last 10 bars, 20 bars, however many you want or less, in terms of how it calculates whether a trend has been broken or not broken. Line style, dotted, dashed or solid. We've done this. Same as before. Color, line weight, show market structure. Again, we've done that. You can change the colors, move the table about, show trend lines in table, turn it on or off, change the size and move it about to any part of the screen that you want. That's how I have it, and that's how I'm going to leave it. And in fact, while we're here, I'm going to change the market structure back to small and put it at the bottom on the left. Then we come along to the alerts. At the very top, we can alert ourselves with both long and shorts, or only longs or only shorts. Depends on your preference. I like all alerts. So let's look at this first alert. To enable or disable alert output, you obviously tick or untick. Then for each of these alerts, you select once per bar or once per bar close. I select once per bar because I want the alert the minute it happens, not when that bar closes, because I may be looking at the 1 hour time frame. And in that case, I'm not going to get the alert until an hour into or after it's happened. So this one here will give the messages resistance broken, support broken. You'll get the levels, you'll get the current resistance, the current support, and also the levels that's been broken. You can change this information in here, which is what's sent to you as an alert. And to do that, you need to refer to LonesomeTheBlue's indicator page, where he has got a list of all the codes and everything you need to be able to change this information here. Essentially, everything's the same running down. We've got price in support and resistance channel, bounce back from support and resistance, support resistance rebroken, trend line with a big angle if one's appeared, maybe you want to be alerted, distance to support and resistance. I don't have that one ticked. That essentially will give you a warning if this distance actually moves. Distance between trend lines, whether there's a new trend line, whether it's uptrend or downtrend, it becomes quite specific, or only up or downtrend. This is notified here. Let's keep going down. We've looked at this already, which enabled and disabled the numbers here. I think we discussed the angle bisector, which runs right the way through the middle and can be switched on or off and configured solid, dotted or dashed, as well as the color and the opacity. Keep moving down. Don't show a trend line if the angle is less than 3 degrees or greater than 60 degrees. Useful if you want to be specific in terms of what you're looking at. Could be that you want to ignore trend lines lower than 3 degrees or greater or lower than 60, etc. Again, I'd leave these be. I don't touch them at all, but they are there should you feel the need to make these changes. Don't show trend line if the distance is greater than 20%. Self-explanatory. There is the information that tells you what that means. Unvisible trend lines. Don't need to zoom in or out if the start point is greater than 292. You can either tick or untick that. And then don't extend trend lines. If I tick that, you'll see that the trend lines will disappear beyond the price. Obviously, we don't want that. We want to see the full trend line for an idea of where things may end up. We can change the color. We can change the style and width of each of the lines produced by this indicator on screen as well. Middle lines, upper lines, lower lines, weak lines, strong lines. So, you can get a complete picture of what's going on at a glance. But not only that, you don't have to learn how to read it. You can tell it what to say, so you know exactly how to read it. Change the line color if the angle is greater than 45 degrees. That's a really useful feature. If it's a high degree trend line, obviously it will be more visible because the colors here will change. Minimum angle rate for new trend lines, 15 degrees. Minimum loop back length in terms of bars, 350. And show pivot points is one that I find quite useful to use every now and then. So I'll just enable it quickly, and that will show you where the trend line indicator is using pivot points to determine where the price is going and what the trend is. Quite useful. Low, high, low, high. So you can see at every point where that price makes a change, we get a notification. And that's it. Hope this has been useful. This has been your tutorial video on the settings for Trendlines Pro, an indicator by LonesomeTheBlue, available within TradingView. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.